It's loss recovery specialists. And gentlemen, please introduce yourself.
I'm Ben Reichel.
I'm Chad Williamson.
Ben, what do you do for the company?
I'm the owner of Loss Recovery Specialist. I'm what's called a licensed public adjuster.
Chad, what do you do?
I write all the estimates. I look at the photos of the repairs before and after and submit them to the insurance company.
Ben, tell us, why did you get into the loss recovery business?
I was in the roofing industry for quite a few years, and then I realized that sometimes the insurance companies don't exactly like to pay everything that's due to the homeowner. And I discovered there's a profession relatively new. In 2007, Tennessee adopted what's called public adjusters, and that is an advocate for property owners for insurance property damage claims.
And Chad, how do you pick up the slack on this?
Actually, very, very similarly, except I owned a construction company before called American Home Improvement, and long story short, I got to the point where I realized that instead of ordering materials and running roofers and doing this and that, so I enjoyed writing estimates. So I sought work under Ben to write his estimates, and it worked out perfectly.
So how long you been in business, Ben?
Almost 4 years now as a licensed public adjuster.
Chad, how about you? How long did you do construction?
6 years.
Okay, so we got some clout underneath the belt. And so what is one thing, Ben, that you'd like to tell the listeners right off the bat?
Well, if you ever have property damage, know there's somebody that can work for you, act as an advocate. Most property owners have no idea how the insurance industry works. They rely strictly on the insurance company to tell them what their property damage is worth. Actually, as a property owner, you're supposed to be telling the insurance company how much your damages are. But unfortunately, the insurance company is happy to tell you. So what we do as a public adjusting firm, we work with the insurance company to make sure you get what you're supposed to get as according to exactly what the policy says.
Now, Ben, when would we use your services?
Any type of property damage. The most common things, of course, recently this spring we had a major hailstorm in Cleveland. A lot of people didn't realize it also hit Saudi Daisy, ringled really bad. And hail does a lot of damage, especially on a roof. And most homeowners don't even know they have hail damage till they get a leak 3 years later. So what we do is inspect the roof for free, let homeowners know if there's basically an insurable claim, all kinds of other any property damage, maybe your dishwasher leaks, the ice maker breaks, floods the kitchen, all those types of things. If you call the insurance company on your own, they'll come out, say, you have $3,000 loss. Well, how does a homeowner know what that is? So what we do a complete evaluation. We could either come on the front end of the claim, which is usually best, or of course we could come on the back end. If you don't think you got a fair shake from the insurance company, we can act as your advocate and help you.
Ben, do you find that the insurance companies like to play ball, or are they...
They're a business like anybody else. There's obviously good ones, bad ones. Sometimes they're fair, sometimes they're not. Almost all cases, we can probably get more money, what you're actually owed for the policy. Say, for example, they're going to give you $50 to paint a stain on the ceiling. Well, there's a lot more involved in that. You might have to have an electrician drop the ceiling fan, cover the whole floor, mask, tape, prep, go around lighting fixtures. So you're at $500 or $600, $700 as opposed to $50. And that's just a really small little example. Comes to roofing, for example, there's steep charges, there's flashing issues, there's law and ordinance coverage that Chad will talk about later, certain things a contractor has to do to comply with codes at your municipality. The insurance company is supposed to pay for all these things.
Chad, most people don't really understand how many different insurance policies there are.
And I'll be the first to tell you that there are a countless number of different types of insurance policies. However, they all really fall into one of two categories. A replacement cost value policy, which pays for the full cost to replace what was damaged, or an actual cash value policy, which only pays for the current value of what was damaged. So if you have a $10,000 roof on your house that's 10 years old, the actual cash value of that roof is not $10,000. It's about $8,000, about 80%. Depreciation is applied per year, per age of the roof. So an insurance company that has sold you an actual cash value policy, you may not actually know that that's what you've got. So a hailstorm comes and all of a sudden you get a check for your $10,000 roof after your deductible for like $7,000, and now you've got to come up with the difference. All you've got to do is call us or call your agent and make sure you have a replacement cost value policy. It's the most important thing I can tell everybody today.
And Ben, actually, I have a question for you. How are you guys different than like a contractor?
Well, a contractor can't legally negotiate with the insurance company, can't talk about policy issues. All a contractor can do is provide an estimate to the insurance company. We can actually negotiate with the insurance company. We do everything from the beginning to the end. We can actually call the claim in on behalf of the homeowner. meet the adjuster out on the scene, go over all the damage there is, negotiate a fair settlement. And so really the only thing the property owner has to do is sit back and wait for results. And we do produce results. And it takes something off the property owner. They can rest assured that property is in good hands.
Now, Ben, correct me if I'm wrong, but not too many people in the South have heard of public adjusters.
Brad, you're correct. Up in the Northeast, if you're in Pennsylvania, you're not going to call an insurance claim in without using a public adjuster. New York, very popular up there. Down where you have a lot of hurricanes, say Miami, for example. Florida is loaded with public adjusters. This area of the country, though, it's really new. I just kind of came across it by accident. I was very frustrated working for a roofing company where the insurance company wouldn't speak to me, and did a little bit of research and discovered that there is such thing as a public adjuster in Tennessee, Georgia. We're also licensed in Colorado, getting ready to go across the entire country. But right here, we're really focused right now in Tennessee Valley and northern Georgia.
Now, Chad, I don't know about you, but if I had windstorm damage or if I had hail damage and I went outside and looked at my roof, I think the first thing I'd do is scratch my head and go, I have no idea what to do next. Well, from what you're saying is there's so many different kind of insurance policies, but there's got to be some laws and ordinances that we also have to follow.
Yeah, that's absolutely true. And almost every insurance company these days includes an endorsement on that policy that gives you additional insurance to cover the cost of construction. You know, building a house today costs a little bit more money than it did building it in the 50s. And, most homes in the Chattanooga area were probably built around the 70s, if I had to say an average. But these days we use what's called the International Residential Building Code. Every few years they put out an edition. The 2009 is statewide in Tennessee, but Chattanooga and Cleveland have actually bumped that up to the 2012 edition. So you need to have somebody that knows these codes, that really can recite them off the back of their head to understand how to approach an insurance claim. It's impossible to tell how much something's worth or something's cost to replace is without knowing these things. Prime example, drip edge. No roof in Chattanooga that was put on in the old days has got drip edge on it. It's this metal rail that goes around the perimeter of the roof. It keeps water from blowing in. It's that important. It keeps your soffits underneath from rotting out. But your insurance company is not just going to give that to you. Now, if I come back as a public adjusting firm and say, in the residential code R905.2.8.5 talks about drip edge, it says we have to have it. And then the insurance company will gladly pay for it because you've purchased that additional coverage.
So what you're saying is sometimes the insurance companies will not let on to specific damages are done, but you can point out each one of them, and the insurance company's like, oh, you're right, golly gee.
I think you actually said it very well. They just either don't or don't want to understand what the true value of losses are. That's why we exist.
Ben, just off the top of my head, I'm thinking wind damage, next day you got to file, right?
Oh, no, not at all. If you look at the policy, most policies give you up to a year to file a claim. So if you had hail damage in March, it's not unusual at all to file a claim now. In fact, as a property owner, you're doing your due diligence according to the policy. You think you might have damage on the roof, your neighbor got a roof, you've seen roofs going on. Have it inspected, have a professional determine if it's an insurable claim or not. That's what we do. We've actually filed claims from 6 months ago where it was a different insurance company at the time of the loss and been successful. So the only thing that matters is, was your property insured at the date of the loss, and have you taken the proper steps that Chad will talk about later as a homeowner, what you're supposed to do, your duties as a property owner are to make sure you have an insurable claim.
So the first thing, Ben, is I walk outside and I see the damage. Do I call you first or do I call my insurance company?
Well, definitely don't call the insurance company. And the worst thing you could do is call your agent. The agent is the person that sells you insurance. They don't have anything to do with the claim process at all. They'll probably try to talk you out of filing a claim. I wouldn't necessarily call a roofer, though there are good roofing companies out there. I would call us. We're going to do a lot more than look at the roof. We're going to examine the interior for leaks. You might have a leak in the closet ceiling that you never knew about. We're going to look at all the exterior. Your deck might have chipped paint on it. Well, that's all. I mean, these things are a lot of money. You might have a couple holes in the siding. In Cleveland, we had pool liners that actually were damaged from the hail. It was so large. You might have personal contents, grills, window screens, fascia, soffit. We examine the whole property, and there's no charge for us to do that. We'll be happy to come out and look at no cost at all to you.
Chad, hypothetical situation. I got some wind damage. I step outside. I'm flustered. You come out. You're cool. You're calm. You're collected. What's your process?
Well, the first thing we're going to have one of our guys do is write up a written damage report along with photographs to evidence what is actually damaged. Now, we actually use the same program to estimate our losses as the insurance companies use, or at least a large majority of them. That program is called Xactimate. It's a company out of Utah that their only job is to make and generate price lists for how much stuff costs. So what I do is I look at the photos, and then I go into an Xactimate and try to match it up with a line item. For example, 3-tab 25-year shingles, and I put in the quantity. Say your roof's 2,300 square feet, or 2,400 square feet, or 3,000 square feet, or if you've got 100 linear feet of gutters damaged, or if you have several window screens that need replaced, I put in those numbers and line items. And when I put those two things in, Xactimate actually gives me how much it costs to replace them. It factors in labor, it factors in materials. It truly is an awesome program, and it's very powerful, and I'm a huge fan of it. And it helps us speak the same language to the insurance companies as they speak back to us.
Now, if you just joined us and you're thinking, who are these guys? Well, Chad, your background is?
My background is construction. I was in it for 6 years. Before that, music education, but...
Well, if you want to sing for us, that'd be fine and dandy, too.
Oh, no.
Ben, and what about you? Your background?
Yeah, I was in the roofing industry quite a few years, and then I've spent the last 4 years as a public adjuster.
And we have a phone call, so go ahead, sir.
We just moved into our house in May. There have been a couple roofing companies that have come through our neighborhood in reference to the hailstorm that came through on March 21st through the Ringgold, Georgia area. My issue is that we weren't there in March, but I've had one of them say, well, actually, the folks who were there, if you could get in touch with them, could file a claim. Would that be accurate?
That is accurate. Whoever had the insurance on the property at the time of the occurrence happened, they would have to use their insurance to file the claim. So that is accurate. If they would be willing to go back and file a claim, it really wouldn't be a black mark against them or anything. I don't know if they would see much of a reason to do that. But
right.
Unless you have another storm from the time you moved in, it wouldn't be covered by your policy.
Gotcha.
Whoever inspected the home when you bought it probably should have caught the fact that there was hail damage on the roof and maybe negotiated a lower price if they weren't going to have the roof replaced, or had an understanding that they would go back and file a claim through their insurance to have it replaced.
Okay. Well, maybe I'll just try to get in touch with them, see if they'd be willing to work with me, and I just wanted to make sure that was accurate.
Yes, it'd actually be worth a shot.
Okay. Thanks a bunch for your time.
And yet another satisfied customer. Chad, hypothetical situation. I got some wind damage. I step outside. I'm flustered. You come out. You're cool. You're calm. You're collected. What's your process?
Well, the first thing we're going to have one of our guys do is write up a written damage report along with photographs to evidence what is actually damaged. Now, we actually use the same program to estimate our losses as the insurance companies use, or at least a large majority of them. That program is called Xactimate. It's a company out of Utah that their only job is to make and generate price lists for how much stuff costs. So what I do is I look at the photos, and then I go into an Xactimate and try to match it up with a line item. For example, 3-tab 25-year shingles, and I put in the quantity. Say your roof's 2,300 square feet, or 2,400 square feet, or 3,000 square feet, or if you've got 100 linear feet of gutters damaged, or if you have several window screens that need replaced, I put in those numbers and line items. And when I put those two things in, Xactimate actually gives me how much it costs to replace them. It factors in labor, it factors in materials. It truly is an awesome program, and it's very powerful, and I'm a huge fan of it. And it helps us speak the same language to the insurance companies as they speak back to us.
Now, if you just joined us and you're thinking, who are these guys? Well, Chad, your background is?
My background is construction. I was in it for 6 years. Before that, music education, but...
Well, if you want to sing for us, that'd be fine and dandy, too.
Oh, no.
Ben, and what about you? Your background?
Yeah, I was in the roofing industry quite a few years, and then I've spent the last 4 years as a public adjuster.
Ben, I got to admit, sometimes the insurance companies can be downright scary.
Yeah, the insurance industry has a lot of money, and they've done a tremendous job scaring people from filing a claim, trying to intimidate you from filing a claim. People need to realize that you have a contract with the insurance company. And the contract says if X, Y, or Z happens, the insurance company is supposed to pay for it. So don't be afraid to file a claim if you have legitimate property damage. That's what you're paying every month for. You're paying a very hefty premium, I'm sure, which keeps going up every year. Deductibles go up every year. So if you have storm damage, that's legitimate storm damage, don't be afraid to at least have it looked at by a professional to see if you do have an insurable claim. But don't be afraid to file a claim. They're not going to drop you if you file a weather-related claim. That's an act of God. It's different than leaving the door unlocked and getting all your jewelry stolen. This is something you have no control over. However, I would recommend never to file more than 3 claims in 2 years. They'll red flag you as a high risk, regardless if that's an act of God or not. But don't be intimidated to file a claim if you have legitimate storm damage at your home.
How long does it usually take you guys to go out and look at some damage?
We can usually get somebody out there within the next day or two, of course, depending on the weather. Of course, a lot of it depends on the insurance company somebody has, but we can do everything from the beginning to the end. We can call the claimant for you if you want to proceed with it. We'll schedule an inspection with the adjuster. Typically, we get the claim called in the next day after we looked at it. 1 or 2 days, the insurance company get back in touch with us to schedule an inspection. Of course, we'll verify that's a good time for the property owner. A lot of times the property owner doesn't even need to be there through the whole process. If you don't have any interior damage, some people want to be there. Some people work all day. They don't want somebody else to deal with it. So we work with everybody individually. And then once the claim gets inspected, sometimes the insurance adjuster, a lot of them will write a check right there on the spot. So other insurance companies, sometimes it takes a little bit longer. It's a pretty busy time of year. Everybody's just now getting caught up after the big major hailstorm from March. So typically probably a 2-week process from beginning to end to get a fair and reasonable settlement.
Chad and Ben in here answering all your questions. And by the way, we didn't find these guys under, an overpass on 75. These guys are licensed by the Department of Commerce and Insurance. So are you guys bonded, by the way,
Yes.
too?
Yes.
Bonded
Licensed,
too?
bonded, insured. Yeah.
Licensed, bonded, insured. So it's the whole thing, guys.
Yeah.
And so, Chad, we've talked a lot about residential. Do you guys do commercial?
Yeah, absolutely. And, the way commercial properties get damaged is actually a little different than a typical residence. The roof coverings on commercial buildings, if they're flat, will be of a rubberized membrane called EPDM, or a more plastic-based one called TPO that's white. You also have some structural steel panels that could be up there. And, sometimes they do have shingles too.
Okay.
But depending on the make of the roof, it'll show damage. It's much more difficult to find the damage. We even sometimes employ the use of a thermal imaging camera to see how the water's getting in, because if the water, it's a heat sink, it holds heat in. So when the sun goes down, the roof surface area will cool off, but the water that's underneath, you'll actually still be able to see it. It'll be bright, it'll be hot because it holds that heat. All of these roofs, the metal roofs in Tennessee, if they have dents in them, the insurance company is required to replace them. Cosmetic damage counts. In some states that's not the case. We have a very strong insurance commissioner.
And Ben, can you explain how you're unique from other insurance adjusters?
That's a very good question, Brad. There's actually 3 different types of adjusters. There's what's called a staff adjuster. Some of the major insurance companies actually employ their own adjusters. So when the adjuster comes to inspect the property, they don't work for you, the property owner. They work for the insurance company. That's an important distinction to make. And then you have independent adjusters. When there's a catastrophic storm or maybe a smaller insurance company, they hire what's called independent adjusters to go inspect the property. And again, the independent adjuster does not work for the property owner. That's an important distinction. They work for the insurance company. On the other hand, we're what's called public adjusters. We're licensed just like the regular adjuster is that works for the insurance company, although some states don't require a license unless for a public adjuster, a license is required. And we work for the property owner. We don't work for the insurance company. So we're your advocate as the property owner. Obviously, you don't have to have a public adjuster to file a claim, but realize that you have a right to use one.
Ben, tell me, what makes loss recovery specialists unique?
That's a very good question, Brad. There's actually 3 different types of adjusters. There's what's called a staff adjuster. Some of the major insurance companies actually employ their own adjusters. So when the adjuster comes to inspect the property, they don't work for you, the property owner. They work for the insurance company. And then you have independent adjusters. When there's a catastrophic storm or maybe a smaller insurance company, they hire what's called independent adjusters to go inspect the property. And again, the independent adjuster does not work for the property owner. That's an important distinction. They work for the insurance company. On the other hand, we're what's called public adjusters. We're licensed just like the regular adjuster is that works for the insurance company, although some states don't require a license unless for a public adjuster, a license is required. And we work for the property owner. We don't work for the insurance company. So we're your advocate as the property owner. Obviously, you don't have to have a public adjuster to file a claim, but realize that you have a right to use one.
And Ben, for those that just tuned in, can you kind of walk us through the process of what happens after they see that storm damage?
Yeah, the first thing, of course, is to either call us or go to our website and send an email to us through the website. We'll come out and inspect the property. Obviously, we can do it at the property owner's convenience. A lot of people want to be there. Some people don't. They're busy. They want us to go ahead and look at it. We'll take digital photos of all what we think is property damage. We'll go over it in detail with the property owner, give you our recommendations, whether we think you do have an insurable claim, or if it's just wear and tear or craftsmanship issue. Those things aren't covered by the policy. The policy only covers certain things. It's our job to know exactly what's covered by your policy if we think that you have an insurable claim. And if so, we give you the opportunity to make a decision. If you want us to, we can do everything from the beginning to the end. We can call the claim in. We can set up the inspection with the insurance company. Sometimes the insurance company will take our inspection. They'll take our photos. They'll take Chad's estimate. Sometimes they just approve our estimate. That's some of the things that we can do since we are licensed by the Department of Commerce and Insurance. We negotiate a fair settlement. Of course, we do everything communicating with the property owner. Once we get that initial estimate, we'll communicate back to you, let you know what they're paying for, what our recommendations are. Maybe they're not paying everything they should. There's other steps we can take according to what the policy says. You don't have to accept their first offer. You can take what we agree upon, negotiate for other things after the fact, and then just move from there. Every claim is a little bit different. Every homeowner is different. We work with every property owner, commercial or residential, work with you individually. Your claim matters to us. And that's the difference with the public adjuster. We work for you. We don't work for the insurance company. Your interest is our interest.
LossReCov.com, or you can call them at 800-710-8419. That's 800-710-8419.